This video focuses on sedentary behavior, including its definition, health impacts, and patterns. We will explore several study questions, including whether sedentary behavior is harmful to health, and if it remains so even when physical activity guidelines are met. Sedentary behavior is defined as any waking activity with an energy expenditure of 1.5 metabolic equivalents or less, typically performed while sitting, reclining, or lying. It is one component of 24-hour movement behaviors, alongside sleep and physical activity. Now, let's think about a question. Which is more important for health, reducing sitting time or increasing physical activity? The answer is that both are important. Physical inactivity is a different concept from sedentary behavior. Physical inactivity refers to not meeting recommended physical activity guidelines, whereas sedentary behavior refers to prolonged periods of low-energy activities, such as sitting. This distinction highlights that excessive sitting is now considered an independent risk factor for chronic disease. Its underlying mechanisms differ from those associated with simply not exercising. As a result, high levels of sedentary behavior can still be harmful, even among individuals who are physically active. Next, let's take a deeper look at the connection between sedentary behavior and health outcomes. Physical inactivity and sedentary behavior can lead to numerous health consequences, including increased risk of dementia, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, sarcopenia, and insulin sensitivity. The graph shows the association between level of sitting and hazard ratio of all-cause mortality. It summarizes evidence from multiple cohort studies. Each line represents a different study, but the pattern is consistent. As sitting time increases, the hazard ratio for all-cause mortality also increases, though some relationships are curvilinear. Despite variability across studies, the consensus is clear. More sitting is associated with higher mortality risk. Let's look at another graph. This figure illustrates the association between levels of television viewing and the hazard ratio of all-cause mortality. We can observe that TV viewing shows a steeper risk curve compared to total sitting time. Why might this be? One reason is that TV viewing is often accompanied by snacking, particularly the consumption of ultra-processed foods. It may also reflect longer, uninterrupted periods of sedentary behavior. This suggests that not all sedentary behaviors have the same impact on health. Now let's shift to sedentary behavior and mental health. A study published in 2023 reported a non-linear positive association between total sedentary behavior and the risk of depression, while television viewing showed a linear association with depression risk. These findings suggest that it is not only how much time is spent sitting, but also how that time is spent. Passive sedentary activities, such as watching television, may be more consistently associated with depression, whereas total sitting time appears to become particularly harmful at higher levels. Notably, the risk of depression increases more substantially once total sedentary time exceeds approximately 8 hours per day. What other interesting findings can be observed from this figure? Now let's think about another question. Is too much sedentary behavior bad for health, although they meet the PA guidelines? This is a graph to show how physical activity may moderate the association between sedentary behavior and all-cause mortality rate. This study splits people into active and inactive groups. Across all sitting categories, active individuals have lower death rates than inactive individuals. However, sitting still matters, even among active people. The worst outcomes are seen in people who are both inactive and highly sedentary. Sedentary behavior moderates the association between PA and mortality. Now we stratify by BMI. In normal weight and overweight groups, mortality only spikes at extremely high sitting levels. In obese individuals, sitting time shows a much stronger dose-response relationship. This suggests sedentary behavior may be particularly harmful in high-risk populations. This study examines the association between sedentary behavior and the hazard ratio of cardiovascular disease mortality across different levels of physical activity. As shown by the lower trend, high levels of moderate to vigorous physical activity, approximately 60 to 75 minutes per day, can largely offset the increased cardiovascular disease mortality risk associated with prolonged sitting. In contrast, the upper trend indicates that among individuals with low levels of physical activity, sitting time is strongly associated with higher mortality risk. Overall, the figure suggests that higher levels of physical activity can help compensate for the negative effects of sedentary behavior. There is another evidence about the association of physical activity and all-cause mortality, stratified by sitting time and TV viewing. From the left figure, you can find when the people become very active, the hazard ratio for all-cause mortality is similar regardless of daily sitting. However, high activity level attenuates but does not eliminate the increased risk from high TV viewing, which has a stronger impact. In conclusion, a meta-analysis study concluded that each additional hour of sitting is associated with an approximately 2% increase in mortality risk. Notably, the risk rises more sharply beyond about 7 hours of sitting per day. These associations persist, even after adjusting for levels of physical activity. Overall, the findings suggest that reducing sitting time is important for health, even among individuals who engage in regular exercise. Here is a summary of the strength of evidence regarding sedentary behavior, physical activity, and all-cause mortality. The Physical Activity Guidelines Advisory Committee rates the evidence linking sedentary behavior to mortality as strong. There is robust evidence supporting a dose-response relationship, as well as effect modification by moderate to vigorous physical activity. Overall, this is no longer a controversial area. The evidence base is well established and consistent. Next, let's shift to another important question. How do patterns of sitting affect health outcomes? Does it matter whether sitting is continuous or frequently interrupted? Here, we can classify sedentary to two patterns, including prolongers and breakers. If we assume two people have the same total sitting time, breakers interrupt sitting frequently, prolongers sit for long, uninterrupted bouts. Even when total sitting time is the same, more breaks are associated with smaller waist circumference. The study showed that here is 6 centimeters different in waist circumference between the prolonger sitting and the breakers. This suggests how you sit matters, not just how much. Next, let's look at another piece of evidence on how different sedentary patterns affect cognition. The figure on the left represents prolonged sitting, while the one on the right illustrates breaking up sitting. The graph suggests that prolonged sitting may negatively affect cognition through cardiovascular, metabolic, and neurotrophic pathways. In contrast, breaking up prolonged sitting may help improve cognitive function by mitigating these negative effects, particularly by enhancing cerebral blood flow and regulating the sympathetic nervous system. By considering physical activity, sedentary and activity patterns can be classified into 4 types. These patterns are typically derived from accelerometer data, which allows for minute-by-minute measurement of behavior. The patterns range from individuals who are both highly sedentary and highly active to those who are low in both sedentary behavior and physical activity. The upper left represents individuals who are both highly sedentary and highly active, showing large areas of both sedentary black and active white time. The upper right represents individuals who are highly sedentary and low in physical activity, appearing predominantly black. The lower left represents individuals who are low in sedentary time and highly active, with smaller and more mixed areas of black and white. Finally, the lower right represents individuals who are low in sedentary time but also low in activity intensity. Looking ahead, we consider how sedentary behavior might evolve in the future and how technology will further change our behaviors. Labor-saving gadgets like robotic lawnmowers, vacuum cleaners, and window cleaners are increasing our time spent in sedentary pursuits, making physical activity even more crucial. New labor-saving systems, such as self-driving cars, further contribute to a sedentary lifestyle by eliminating the need for physical activity during commuting. The increasing use of AI technologies for daily tasks, as illustrated in this AI-generated image, may further shift lifestyles toward more sedentary behaviors. Moving forward, can you think of other examples of technologies that might contribute to increased sedentary behavior?